So, it has recently come to my attention that there are more Terminator films that people dislike than there are that people like, and I'm just saying that feels ludicrous to me.
That's fucking crazy, man.
The original Terminator is a classic of cinema. There is absolutely no denying that.
Hands down, no argument.
It's tense, it's got good action, great characters, it made Arnold a mainstream star, it didn't have OJ in it, and even with questionable effects by today's standards. The end is so tense, my butthole shrinks 3 sizes every time I watch it.
You're terminated, fucker.
Terminator 2 is even better, and I'd go as far as to say it's most likely the greatest action film ever made, and I will argue that with you until the day I die. Or until, I see one that's even better. I mean, Fury Road came awfully close a few years ago. And Endgame? I feel like the T-800 would even be able to cry if he saw that shit. But I'm not here to argue those are good. It's not really a debated topic. I'm here to talk about the other 4 Terminator movies. Yeah. Don't you feel kind of old that there are 6 Terminator films now, and yet they can't make a Shanghai Noon 3?
God, this country.
Yes, the subsequent 4 Terminator films are all much lower in quality than the first 2, which, by all accounts, when James Cameron left, they probably should have just left it alone.
Yes, leave her alone!
They're so disliked that every time a new one comes out, they completely discredit the ones that came between it and Terminator 2. It's like the studio just keeps insisting, "We hear you, fans. We're not gonna fuck this up again." And then they just keep fucking this up again. It's like when you tell your cat to stop peeing on the floor next to the litter box and he looks really guilty, so you're pretty sure he got the message, and an hour later I slip and fall on my back in my white t-shirt and now I need to buy a mop and a new white t-shirt. I've tried different litter, different food. What am I doing wrong, little guy? Did I hurt you in some way?
Yes, did you make good pee-pee? Did you make good pee-pee?
Anyways, we can pretend the last Terminator films don't exist all we want, but they're here, they exist, and they're not going anywhere. So I figure before they're all wiped out of cyberspace by Skynet, did you guys get the reference? It's pretty funny.
I smell comedy. Well, it was comedy giving off that scent.
And trying to be as objective as possible, I thought I'd take a look at each of them one by one to see which one is the best and should be the definitive Terminator sequel. Spoilers ahead, of course, and I'll be judging them mainly on the quality of the movie, but also looking at what they do with what are essentially some of my favorite characters of all time. Like, I don't know, whether they retcon it so my favorite moments didn't happen, or they kill off my favorite character in the first scene of the movie. Just calm down, Pete. We'll get there. First up, Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. I know a lot of people hate this movie, and there's some pretty questionable stuff in here, but I've always been kind of a defender of this movie. However, rewatching it, I did notice a few more things that I didn't enjoy this time. The plot is admittedly pretty derivative of the first 2. A new type of Terminator comes back in time to not only kill John Connor, but all those around him who serve in the future war against the machines. With Skynet anticipating the humans sending a Terminator to stop her, this one is a model specifically designed to take out other Terminators, which shows a nice little learning curve on the part of Skynet. Arnold comes in to stop her, rescues John and his old friend Kate, and they set off to try to stop Judgment Day from happening once again, as they merely delayed it at the end of the last one.
What did you say?
Yeah, I'll admit it kind of cheapens the T-800 sacrifice at the end of T2, but I can forgive something like that if you have a story worth telling, which I think in some regards they do. First off, let's talk Arnold. He's great as the Terminator. He's always been great as the Terminator. He'll never not be great as the Terminator. He's not as good as he is in T2, but damn it, he's still crushing it.
The only thing that makes me really angry is not that I was smacked in the fire truck, but that my sunglasses were damaged.
He is a little older in this one. He's 55 when they made this, but he still looks like he can kick ass pretty well. They play up the humor on him a little more than in the last one, and for the most part it works. There's one line that was particularly hysterical to me.
Relax. Relax.
God, I just burst out laughing every time I see it. They subvert our expectations a lot with him, like when we think it's another biker bar and it's actually a strip joint and he puts on the fake glasses. It's nice admitting that you're not just gonna rehash the same moments from the last one. I dig it and I respect it. John Connor takes center stage in this one, and he's dealing with what happens after they stopped Judgment Day in the last one, and I love that story arc for him. Like, imagine you're supposed to do something monumental,
maybe the most important thing anyone has ever done,
but you stop it from ever needing to happen. What do you do after that? Where does your life go? How would you live your life haunted by all this stuff you know could have and should have happened?
I can't erase my dreams, my nightmares.
The goddamn robot's down!
Then all of a sudden you find out you only delayed it and it's all happening.
The end of the world is today, 3 hours from now.
Holy shit, man, that's so much to take in all at once. I'd probably point a gun at my head too. But while his arc is good, Nick Stahl just isn't fully up to the task of the character. He's not horrible, he's not my least favorite John Connor, but he seems so whiny and ingenuine the whole time, and he barely even fires a gun in this except reactionary. He always needs to be protected. He's a very damsel in distressy character, which isn't really flowing with the whole epic picture of John Connor we're supposed to inevitably see. It's a little disappointing, especially after Edward Furlong pretty much crushed it in the last one. What's also disappointing is that Sarah Connor is completely absent in this movie, replaced in essence by Claire Danes Kate, somewhat of a love interest for John who can pretty well hold her own in a fight. How they explain Sarah's absence, though, feels so true to that character. She's fighting cancer for years just to be sure Judgment Day doesn't happen, then putting a bunch of guns in your grave in case it does. That's classic Sarah Connor. Also, and this might be a hot take, the story didn't totally need her. I mean, it's about John. It's always been about John. He's been the central focus of all these movies. They never mention her being in the future or even seeing Judgment Day happen. In terms of narrative arc with the three movies, the first one's about her, the second one's about her and John, and the third one's about John. That honestly feels like a pretty smooth transition to me. And Kate is also a pretty competent character in her own right. She knows how to fight, she's got a military father, she doesn't really ever resign herself to what others tell her to be.
You're John Connor's spouse and second in command.
No, I don't want your life.
And Claire Danes is a fantastic choice to play this character. She's always been a pretty damn good actor. I mean, have you seen Romeo plus Juliet? I mean, there's more than that, but she's really good. Homeland 2, I hear, is quite good.
So great. So great, my man.
I mean, she was such a popular character, they brought her character back in the fourth one. And to my knowledge, she's the only new character created not in the first or second one to make it to multiple films.
I gotta say, I'm impressed.
Thank you.
You remind me of my mother.
Yeah, I gotta rethink this whole thing.
The bad Terminator, the TX, is fine. She's not amazingly scary like Arnold or Robert Patrick, but she's not awful. I think it was a very smart move making it a woman because people get a natural Charlie's Angel syndrome from her. They can't stop staring at her breasts long enough to see her as a threat so she can take people out relatively easily. I think it was a brilliant move by the writers. Not just because, well, she can do that thing with things.
Well, I can't stop staring at your breasts.
But her mission is kinda stupid when you think about it. She's supposed to kill 22 targets aside from John and Kate, and they send her back on Judgment Day. She can't really get that all done in less than a day, right? Especially if you're anticipating the other side sending another robot to stop you.
I like your plan, except it sucks, so let me do the plan, and that way it might be really good.
And is it me or is she kind of worse than the T-1000? Arnold even takes out her plasma shooting gun. What was that? What's she shooting? Is it just light? I feel like in a fight between her and the T-1000 could take her out no problem. That might just be me. I don't know. She's not awful. She's fine as an antagonist. She's kind of threatening. And that car punch she does was super scary.
But they're gonna bring her back to this.
The action in the film is done fairly competently, if somewhat unremarkable. The CGI is a bit unpolished in several scenes, particularly the truck scene looks like a PS2 cutscene, but the action is all fine. My favorite of which is probably John versus the T-800, but honestly, none of them are very memorable.
In conclusion,
This movie in particular, and I might be biased since I saw this when I was little when it came out. I know I was 9 and bad parents. It has some of my favorite moments in the Terminator franchise. Hands down, my favorite of the movie is the death of the TX. Arnold grabbing her by the legs and shoving a mini nuke in her face and yelling,
"You are terminated."
Man, I've been waiting for someone to say that for all 3 movies. It's so fucking satisfying. And there are many others. The TX crashing one helicopter and then Arnold right after her crashing an even bigger one. And then he proclaims once he exits the helicopter,
"I'm back."
That's the best callback I've seen by far. And that scene when Arnold is attacking John and he's proclaiming,
"I am
a machine.
It's genuinely scary. Like, Arnold has still got them acting chops. And when the TX is about to kill Kate and Arnold just pulls up in a fucking hearse and he hits her with a rocket launcher, Arnold had some of the best moments in this whole movie.
I'm a stud. I'm ballsy. I don't take no shit from anyone.
Side note, this movie is full of weirdly random cameos that I don't understand. Like MC Gainey over here as the bouncer, and the guy who killed Uncle Ben as an EMT. John Foster's working in a gas station. Melvin from Daredevil is a SWAT officer, and Chris Hardwick is some random tech guy with one line. These guys all got famous after this, right? Or did they just really want to be in a Terminator movie? I mean, obviously Nerd King Chris Hardwick did. That's not even a question.
Nerds! The other N-word! I'm taking it back!
The themes also have all the best hits from the series. There's no fate but what we make of it, yet still acknowledging sometimes things just happen and we gotta keep moving forward and not let it weigh us down. When John threatens to kill himself to not bear this burden of the future anymore, hoping it might not happen but knowing that it's just a futile gesture, he instead goes to stop Skynet. There's only 3 hours before the nukes drop, man. 3 people won't be able to stop that. Two people and a robot.
Cybernetic organism.
Whatever.
They're more desperate to stop things in this film than the other ones, it feels like. And it feels way more over their heads than ever. The world is against them, and I love that in the end, they lose. We don't always get what we want, guys. But if we try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. Sometimes it's just out of our hands, and we can only react to things as positively and as best we can.
Sucks.
John accepting his fate at the end and grabbing that microphone is a great conclusion to his arc in all of these films, and it feels fairly satisfying. What's not satisfying is the lack of the Terminator theme in the movie. What the hell, guys? I love that music. Are you ashamed of it? Don't just stick it over the end credits. Overall, the movie is good. It's not as great as the first two, but that is a pretty high bar, and I think it's a solid conclusion to the trilogy. A sad yet optimistic look at the future. If John's meant to save humanity, the world has to end, but it will be saved by him, right? But the biggest gripe I have is that the William Candy scene was dropped from the final film.
Hi, I'm Chief Master Sergeant William Candy.
This is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Damn it.
Next up, Terminator Salvation. You know, the movie where Christian Bale was yelling at everybody behind the scenes about, I don't know, maybe he couldn't get a reservation at Dorsia.
I got an 8:30 res at Dorsia. Great. Sea urchin ceviche.
Oh, good for you! And how was it? I hope it was fucking good because it's useless now, isn't it?
People hated this movie too. Like, really hated it. But 11 years after it came out, I've come to respect this movie and even admire it. It finally changes up the Terminator formula, showing us a different part of the Terminator universe than we've seen, other characters that we've never met, while showing us different parts of the future that are previously unexplored. There's no time travel, there's no running around hiding from a Terminator. Salvation is about the Resistance trying to take down Skynet, trying to figure out what they're planning and trying to plan something themselves. John Connor, who's not quite the leader of the Resistance he's supposed to be just yet, has his own platoon and is doing a bang-up job of leading them.
How many survivors are on site? Over.
1.
Meanwhile, we got Marcus, played by Sam Worthington. He was on death row, but before he died, he donated his body to Cyberdyne and suddenly finds himself alive after 15 years. Hey guys, what did I miss? Besides 15 of my birthdays.
Ricky Baker, happy birthday.
He meets a ton of people, including young Kyle Reese, trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Eventually, it's found out he's a robot. I know. Shocker, right? Especially because you put it in the goddamn trailer of the movie. Come on, seriously? Why are you spoiling this movie again? You did it with Terminator 2 as well. It better be the last time you do it. It's not. Let's start with John this time. He is much better than last time, mostly because he's being played by Christian Bale, an actor so good I want to see a Batman reboot where he plays Batman, the Joker, Robin, and every other part in the movie. Although he does do a weird whisper talk a lot in this for some reason.
There's something else you have to see. You think you're human. Because my men died. That's why I don't trust you. I'm Batman.
Louder, son!
It's not a big deal, just felt like a weird choice. John's definitely still learning to be a leader in this. He's getting a lot of people killed to start and only surviving by the skin of his teeth. He's young, but trying to inspire people and show them what it means to be human over machine. Like, I love how hard he tries to save the captured prisoners of Skynet instead of just letting the general kill them. He knows they'd be no better than the machines if that happened. That's the whole idea of these movies. Be better than machines. Be human. The I'll be back is weird, though. I think I love it, but I'm not sure. Somebody else tell me what they think.
What should I tell your men when they find out you're gone?
I'll be back.
What the fuck is this, Chet?
Let's talk about Sam Worthington, because I have thoughts on that dude. Now, I'm definitely not opposed to having a non-Connor take the spotlight in one of these movies. There's so many people in the Resistance, and there's so much to explore about them. He's still just not that interesting in this, though. Like, we know nothing about him. He's put to death for something that it seems he very clearly did, and when he's back, what's he doing? Fucking nothing. He's wandering around and gets other people hurt or killed. Great protagonist. Honestly, he's better in this than Avatar, which ironically came out the same year as this and was actually made by James Cameron. That's always struck me as weird, as like mom and dad pulling him in two different directions, so he could only give half effort to both. Although it feels like it was like a 70-30 where he gave 70 to this and 30 to Avatar. I don't know if you watched that recently, but never mind. The other characters are there. It's a pity they reduced Kate to just the doctor, because I loved her the last time, and now she's just John's pregnant wife. Anton Yelchin is a treasure who was gone way too soon, and I could never hate him in anything, but he doesn't have a ton to work with in this. Michael Ironside will never not be cool in every fucking movie he's in, and Common is just there, and he's not even doing a great job at that. I can't believe this guy was almost Green Lantern. I guess we dodged a bullet by making it Ryan Reynolds, didn't we?
Ring. Finger.
The action in this movie is pretty spot on. It was genuinely shocking to me how fucking good it was. The opening action scene has some beautiful long takes and some genuinely beautiful cinematography that it took me aback. So beautiful. I was like, how could people hate this? This feels like art to me. This feels like effort. They're all enthralling and investing and well shot and well acted, and I was fully immersed in every scene. My favorite fight, though, would be the fake Arnold fight at the end. I'm so glad they made the T-800 scary again. I felt the whole time that there was no way they can win this, and they don't. John gets stabbed and Marcus dies. Twice. It's unpredictable, it's frightening, and I was genuinely surprised by how it went down. Good job, McGee. Oh, seriously? I can't believe I just said that.
Why would I say that?
Also, I love that you threw in how he gets that scar and all the flash forwards in the other ones. It's subtlety, and I love it. And the CGI was also pretty damn convincing. There was only like one or two scenes where I was thinking, yep, there it is. But I can live with it. It all just felt so damn visually stylistic. That dirty, almost devoid of color world except for Skynet really sets the tone for the whole world in which they're living, and I was into it. I can't help but sing its praises, especially for a movie that's 11 years old.
You cannot save John Connor.
Watch me.
You're off the fucking chain!
The story, unfortunately, is some very bland shit. The stuff with John is slightly more interesting, and it's clearly what McGee wanted to explore more, but the Worthington stuff is all some basic-ass shit we've seen a million times. I'm not in this war for you, kid, I'm in it for me stuff that's all over the place. And is that little girl psychic? She does a lot of psychic shit, and it's weird.
Let's go. You could gaze into the future.
But a pretty good part is that knowing the twist that he's subconsciously working for Skynet the whole time, you start to see little things everywhere. Like he's touching the back of his head and saying he needs to leave Kyle, or when his eyes light up red when Skynet is watching. It's pretty damn good filmmaking. It's just too bad this was all done around a pretty forgettable narrative.
Shame.
The motif of his heart being strong and that being his redemptive arc, ultimately leading to him giving his heart to John to save the Resistance, is also pretty great though. The fact that even when made into a machine, we don't lose what makes us human hit me pretty hard. Harder than I expected when I was rewatching this. Like that even someone who was the worst of humanity, who was on death row for something that he, did, is still human and has the capacity for good, is such a nice round out to the story that I really did want to see a sequel to this movie. I wanted to see what else they could do within this world with these characters. It's a real shame that we said screw it and moved on to our next film. Okay.
Okay, Peter, you got this. You got this.
What the hell are you wearing?
It's my suit.
Terminator Genisys sucks. Next movie.
Next! Come on!
Okay, fine. I'll talk about it. How did the studio get so many things wrong so effortlessly? It looks like they were barely trying, and yet basically every single element of this movie feels insulting to the legacy of the Terminator films that came before it. So I'll start at the beginning, and sorry if I get so mad I start crying and yelling out, "I did my best, Dad." It's just something I do.
You can't kill us. We're your parents.
It's who?
So it's 2028, and humans are winning the war against machines. Since Judgment Day in 1997, wait.
On August 29th, 1997.
I thought they stopped that in T2, so you're saying that shit didn't happen? Or at minimum didn't matter? That's even worse than what T3 does, and at least they had a reason. Here it feels like you just forgot or didn't care enough to think about it. So John and Kyle Reese defeat Skynet. Wow. You made it look incredibly easy, like you just did it in an afternoon. But they gotta send Kyle back to save Sarah in 1984, so, you know, the shtick. He gets in there, but it's all kinds of different. There's a T-1000 now, there's 2 Arnolds, one good, one evil, and Sarah's already a badass.
What is happening?
So they take out the 2 other Terminators, then travel to the future using a chip from the dead Terminator.
You're stupid.
They travel to 2017 where Arnold is waiting, but they're arrested and John Connor is there, but he's a Terminator now, which would have been a cool twist if you hadn't spoiled it in the trailer. Come on, film company, get it together, man. They see this new tech company called Genisys is just basically what Skynet is, and they kill John and blow up the system and stop it from going live. Then the 3 of them leave to go into a sequel that'll never be made.
Thank you, God.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here, and almost none of it is good. Let's start again with John. You guys made him suck. He's not well acted by Jason Clarke, which is kind of a surprise because he's usually so good, but I guess he just realized he was in a shit movie and whiffed this one. The only thing I liked was the conversation between him and Kyle about what they're going to do once they defeat the machines, where John obviously knows that Kyle isn't going to make it back, which is kind of heartbreaking for him, and the only thing John says is he wants a cold beer. I've never seen their bond before and never seen that heartbreaking side of John that he has to send what he knows is his father to his death. Probably the only scene in the movie I did enjoy. And then you make him evil. Which is a neat twist with Kyle and Sarah having to wrestle with killing someone that they love, but that only lasts for about 2 seconds in the movie, and then he becomes just another bad guy. He's not even that much of an advancement from the previous Terminators we've seen, so what's the goddamn point? It sucks, it's boring, and I didn't need it.
And I absolutely will not stop ever until Skynet rules.
John Connor talks too much.
Let's get into Arnold. He's gone full comedic relief here, and he's very hit or miss, mostly miss. The smile joke is kind of nice, but they do it like 3 or 4 times, and it's so dumb after a while. You don't really buy the action with him. He just looks like an old man hobbling around. He still feels like the character of the Terminator, and again, I'll never not like him in this role, but dude, you were riding that line here. I kind of wish you'd skipped this one. It feels like a reboot they just kind of forced you into. Like the whole cast is different, and they even recast Miles Dyson for no reason, and even in this alternate reality, the Terminator looks the same.
I got bullshit on that!
It just feels kind of weird and off-putting, and Sarah's not nearly as good as when Linda Hamilton was playing her. Doesn't feel like a good fit between actor and character. I like Emilia Clarke a lot. One could say I even love her to some degree. You could say I love her quite a bit, actually. One might even say that I'm in love with her. One might even say that I've felt this for a long time and I need to finally express my feelings for her in a way that leaves me just guarded enough emotionally that I could play it off as a joke if she rejects me. One could say that if one wanted to. I was never really a Game of Throneser, but I liked her in Solo, which I think is highly underrated. I don't know, maybe I'll make a video about it someday. But there's a huge cloud over her trying to replace Linda Hamilton. She's not offensively awful or anything, but it's nothing special or iconic. And you kind of have to be to measure up to Linda goddamn Hamilton as Sarah Connor.
I didn't want to recast it. That would have been nuts. I would have just written a different story. But if Linda was in, then I would center the story around her.
Oh, I hope you learned your lesson.
What is offensively bad, though, is Jai Courtney.
I don't volunteer for this shit.
Yes,
I hate this guy's acting. All he's got going for him are his looks, and I don't even think he's that good looking. He's kind of pudgy. I don't know. Every time you talk, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me. Not just in this, in anything. Suicide Squad, you're fine. I'll give you that. I didn't hate you in it, but if Hollywood keeps forcing you on me, which I think they learned their lesson in forcing you in all of my favorite film franchises ever, that would have to hurt someone. This director is also such a weird choice. Like, did the studio see Thor: The Dark World and think, well, clearly this is the best Marvel movie and we must have that director to make a Terminator movie. That will solve all our problems and we'll be rich again. And we'll get laid. So what's the plot again? Stop Judgment Day? Again?
God damn. We already did this.
Oh, but this time it's 2017, just for lazy filmmaking reasons. But this time you want to make it needlessly complicated and make time travel the central element? That's what everybody loved, right?
Fucking wrong, bitch.
It's that type of thinking that lets me know you know nothing about the previous Terminators. Just make it simple. That's what everybody loves about the other ones. Simple stories using time travel just as a vessel to tell a human tale of love or family or never giving up hope and the resilience of the human spirit. What's the moral here? You can change fate? We fucking did this already. The last movie changed it up and now you're going back to formula. Thinking that's what we want, except not even doing that right, muddling it up with some timey-wimey bullshit. Plus, you make the Terminators total pussies in this. With one explosion in the beginning, Kyle takes out like 20 of them. Seriously, this is a fucking Terminator, and you take them out like they're made of glass.
Who gives a shit about glass?
God, I hate this so much. It ruins the whole aura of the Terminator, saying we don't care at all about these things. It needs to be bigger and better. It's a Terminator, guys. It'll never not be badass. It's not just Arnold we come to see. It's the fact that he's an unstoppable wrecking machine. If you keep outmoding him, then what's the point of even having Arnold in this movie? And worst of all, the movie's just boring. It feels so long. I know it's only 2 hours, but it feels like it's 10. You retcon all these other movies, every single one, and this is the best that you came up with? Also, how dare you recast Bill Paxton? He was a national treasure. Oh, and also J.K. Simmons is here, right after he won an Oscar, pretty much begging us not to take it away from him.
Goddamn time-traveling robots. Done!
I could say so much more about my disdain for this film, but I won't.
You've done enough already!
Gosh, if only Linda Hamilton would come back as Sarah Connor, that would fix everything. Right? Alright, now I'll admit something. Before working on this, I had never seen Dark Fate. I heard bad things and I didn't want to be let down again. But I sucked it up and sat down to watch it. It's okay. It's not terrible. It's not really good, though, I'd say. It exists, and I haven't decided if that's good or bad yet. Let's talk plot. So it starts out with Sarah and John hanging in the Bahamas, having a nice cold beer after stopping Judgment Day, when a Terminator comes and kills John and leaves.
Wait, that's illegal.
Wow. Giving us the Alien 3 treatment, guys. I thought you only did that after James Cameron leaves a franchise, not comes back to it. Then the movie says screw that and ditches her plot to focus on Danny, a young Mexican girl working in a factory when a Terminator comes back from the future to kill her, and a resistance soldier named Grace is sent back to protect her. Wow, you're not even trying anymore? We already did this! She's from a new future where Skynet never took over, but instead something called Legion did, which is way different from Skynet, I'm telling you. Because they're Terminators. Yes, they also happen to make Terminators look like the aliens from Edge of Tomorrow. Sometimes, but they have the exoskeleton of the original Terminator. But it's different. It's so different.
Same, but different.
So they're on the run, and they're saved by Sarah Connor. Sarah has a contact who told her where the Terminator was going to show up, but instead she showed up on this random bridge. To find this guy, Grace uses tech she calls future shit to track him to Texas. They find Danny's uncle, who takes them across the border to meet up with their contact. Gee, I wonder if there's commentary here. Her contact turns out to be Arnold, and she's a little peeved at him that he's got a family and a wife, and he killed John so many years ago. But together they team up to stop the Terminator from killing Danny, with Grace and the T-800 sacrificing themselves to save Danny at the end. Gee, haven't seen either of those things before. Really breaking the mold with this one.
I didn't necessarily want to go back and recreate past glories. You know, what new can be said? And I think we came up with some fresh ideas.
Now, I'm trying to think of this movie as a continuation or conclusion to the Terminator trilogy, but it has some major issues that leave it deeply unsatisfying. This story feels so out of place, introducing the random ass new characters while the old ones we love take a big old backseat. I mean, yeah, it worked in Blade Runner 2049 because they had character and goals and emotions and played by iconic actors. But here they feel bland and forgettable. Arnold is nice to see again, and he's better here than in Genisys for sure, but what's the deal with him having a wife and a kid now? And he's called Carl? Where the hell did that come from?
I'm never gonna fucking call you Carl.
Your wife has never tried to get physical once? People have needs, man. Granted, seeing that emotional connection develop in a Terminator lost without a subject to terminate is kind of a cool idea, but we just jump to the aftermath. It's like giving him the Hulk treatment from Endgame, just telling us, oh, the character finished his development off screen. That being said, he does still look pretty cool, and he can convincingly kick ass here more so than the last one, and I buy a lot more of his action than Genisys. But please stop forcing these callbacks on us. It's like you're treating this as a parody of a Terminator film when you should treat it like it's a Terminator film.
I won't be back.
What the hell is that?
That feels like some Expendables 2 stuff right there.
If I don't get this back, your ass is terminated. In your dreams.
If you view it more as a Sarah Connor trilogy, it works a little better than you might expect. Simply from her character standpoint, it's a decent through line of naive woman to a badass to teaching the next badass. She's probably the best part of this movie, and if this movie were just about her, that would be pretty awesome. But it's not. You only get one scene of her actually teaching Danny to shoot, and then it's back to her arc from T2, which is, I didn't trust the T-800, but now I do trust the T-800, and I'm learning.
Fresh ideas.
We already did this! The movie's mainly about these two random characters we haven't met before, Grace and Danny.
Grace and Frankie!
Unfortunately, not Grace and Frankie. And Skynet is also not a thing, but instead it's something called Legion. I wouldn't mind these characters so much if they weren't done so damn poorly. Danny has like zero personality. How am I supposed to get invested in her story when she's just so whiny?
Even if your plan means that might not be long.
Walking me out of the room? Can you try?
No, I mean I can't. I got.
I'm not sure if it's the actor's fault because I've never seen her in anything before, or the director's fault, but someone made this character unlikable. And I'm sorry, but she's the leader of the resistance?
She's so small.
It's like watching Dora the Explorer lead them. That sounded racially insensitive. And it was. And she's not just small in the past, but in the future flashbacks, she's so tiny. How am I supposed to buy that she's kicking these guys' asses? And how old is she supposed to be? Like 13 or 35? I honestly couldn't tell. The way she and Grace are written, it feels like 5 guys trying to be a feminist when I'm acutely aware that this was written by 5 guys. Grace suffers from this even worse, at one point even saying to someone who gave her like a full body scan,
Did I say you could look at my private parts?
have you guys ever actually met a woman? Jesus, one of you was married to one of the stars of this movie. You'd think she would have given you some pointers. But Grace isn't all that bad of a character. I didn't hate her or anything. Mackenzie Davis is a pretty good actor, speaking of Blade Runner 2049. But a lot of the stuff they do with her is weird. Like, she needs to keep taking these robot steroids in order to live? Why? For forced plot problems, I guess? She keeps saying they need an EMP to take out this Terminator, but at the end she's like, oh wait, my power source can kill the Terminator too.
Oh, I think you should lead with that next time.
It's stupid shit like this that makes me just roll my eyes and think, what are you guys doing in the writer's room? The action is also nothing really to write home about. It's standard and intense, there's some decent set pieces, but the CGI and visual effects kind of let them down. A lot. Particularly with the evil Terminator called a Rev 9, stupid name by the way. A lot of his movements make him look like he's made of rubber most of the time. How is it that Robert Patrick's liquid metal Terminator still looks better than this 30 years before? The final fight is kind of cool. With Grace and Arnold, no, I'm not calling him Carl.
I'm never gonna fucking
tag teaming the Rev 9. But you know where it's leading. They gotta use her power source to kill it, so why all this nonsensical fighting? It's like Chekhov's gun. Once you see it and once they talk about it, it's gonna happen at the end. We know it and you know it. Stop pretending Grace ain't super gonna die. Also, and this is more of a complaint for movies in general, why do you always have the bad guys push the main character out of the way early on instead of just killing them? It makes no sense and movies always do it. Just choreograph the fight better or something. I don't know, but like this just takes away so much believability for me. The message of this story, which they say yet again in this one, is there's no future but what we make for ourselves, guys.
fresh ideas.
I hate to keep saying this, but we did this before. And yeah, you're retconning the last 3 movies, but we still saw them. They still happened. Come up with some new ideas. It feels almost like a fan-made ripoff of a Terminator movie, but with high-budget studio effects. Sarah Connor feels like Sarah Connor, and that's about all it's got going for it. And just because I like Linda Hamilton doesn't mean I'm gonna like this movie. I think I've decided at this point that I really didn't like this movie. I wasn't sure, but now writing this, I'm pretty damn sure.
Well, that sucks.
And that's all the Terminator sequels post T2. So, all of those things being said, which one is the best one? Going in, I thought it would be Rise of the Machines for sure, because I've always had a soft spot for it, but I liked it a little less than I remember, and I liked Salvation a little more than I remember. It's a tough call, but here's my definitive Terminator ranking.
Oh God, here it comes. So don't. Oh God, here it comes. It's coming.
Last is Genisys. Obviously, it has few, if any, redeeming qualities. Next is Dark Fate, which has more redeeming qualities, but still more bad things than good things. Next is Rise of the Machines. I'm surprised by that ranking myself, and the movie is more good than bad, but John Connor kind of sucks, Sarah Connor's not there, and the action just hasn't aged that great. And finally, it's Salvation. Highly underrated film with good acting, great camera work, the best visual effects of the 4, and pretty damn great action set pieces, even with a run-of-the-mill generic plot. And if you're wondering where I rank the next 2, it's Terminator Original, then T2 on top. And that's my list, and I'm sticking to it. And if you don't like it, there's pretty much nothing I can do about it. Where's my water? I need my water!